Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I will tell you about this book, The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. So this is the part 3 of the Millennium trilogy. And in order to read this, you have to first read the part 2 of this series, The Girl Who Played with Fire. Otherwise, the things will not match because both the parts are related. The story starts in The Girl Who Played with Fire and it ends here. This is the grand finale of the series Millennium. So towards the end of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, that is the first book of this series, we see that Lisbeth Salander takes some money. She hacks into the corrupt businessman Wenstrom's account and hacks billions of kroner into her account. And with that money, she buys one flat in a place called Lundagaten. So now she has 2 apartments, one in which she is currently living and another which she had bought recently with that money she took from Wenstrom. So in her current apartment, which was in rent, she gave it to her friend whose name is Miriam Wu. She's a Chinese woman. So now Miriam Wu is staying there and Elizabeth had shifted to her apartment in her newly taken apartment in Lundagaten. Now on the other side of the story, we see the office, we see Millennium's office where there are Mikkel Blomqvist, Erika Berger, Christer Malm, Eriksson, all of them are there. Then comes 2 new face. One is a Dag Svensson, another is Mia Johansson. So Mia is a criminologist. She had made a thesis on women trafficking in Sweden, and her boyfriend Dag Svensson, he is a journalist, and now it's his duty to interview all of them. Means 29 or 30 people within government organizations, they are involved in this women trafficking case. So now it is Dag's duty to interview all of them and find out the truth. So Dag and Mia comes to Millennium's office and Dag tells that he wants to get a job there. So Erika Berger, the co-owner of the magazine Millennium, she agrees and she tells that yeah, you can take a job here. We will give you 2 months contract and this is your desk, you can work here. So Dag becomes very happy and he started working. Now within all of the names that appeared in Mia's journal, there was one person named Gunnar Bjork whom Dag was unable to track, but Dag thinks that he is one of the major characters in this story. If they can interview this person, Gunnar Bjork, they can get so much information about this entire case of women trafficking. So, but Dag had only Gunnar Bjork's post box number and nothing else. So Mikkel Blomqvist then tells Dag that you can play one hunch. You call Gunnar Bjork and tell him that you won one lottery, one Sony Ericsson smartphone you have won, and we are from a marketing agency. And if you take part in our competition, you would get 100,000 kroner. So Dag calls Gunnar Bjork and he accepts the offer. Then next scene we see that Mikkel Blomqvist is in his sister Annika Giannini's house for some occasion. They are celebrating for some party or something, and Dag calls Blomqvist and tells that there is a person named Zala, Zala, who is involved and Dag thinks that Zala is the mastermind of this women trafficking case, of this group. And Dag tells that whether I will send my report via post or you can come here. Dag tells Blomqvist. So Blomqvist tells, yeah, I can come to your house and listen to you. Don't send it via post, since this is a very highly secretive information. So you should not send it in via post. So Blomqvist goes in his sister's car sister was also there, Annika Giannini. She was a lawyer. So then when Blomqvist enters into Dag and Mia's apartment, he sees that the neighbors had come and all the people who were living in other flats in the same apartment, they had all gathered there in front of Dag and Mia's house, Dag and Mia's apartment or flat, whatever you call. And both of them, when Blomqvist entered, he sees that both of them are shot dead. Dag is shot in the head and Mia on the backside of her head. Both of them had died. So then police comes and starts the investigation, and the police finds one revolver that was used to kill Dag and Mia, that was left by the murderer on the stairs while he or she was trying to escape. Then after forensic test, it was found that the fingerprint of Lisbeth Salander was present in that revolver. So they think, now the police think that Lisbeth Salander is the killer of Dag and Mia. So now they search for the revolver's record, that it belonged to whom, and they discover that it belonged to an advocate named Niels Buurman. And coincidentally, Niels Buurman was also Lisbeth Salander's guardian. Since Lisbeth Salander was declared incompetent, she couldn't live alone. She had to stay under some guardian. According to the law of the city Stockholm, Salander was living under the guardianship of advocate Niels Buurman, and that revolver belonged to Niels Buurman. Now, Inspector Sonja Modig, she goes to interrogate Niels Buurman about this incident, but when she enters into his apartment, his room, she sees that advocate Niels Buurman is also dead. Someone shot him. So now the story becomes too much complex, and the police thinks that Lisbeth Salander is the murderer of all of them. All three murders are done by Lisbeth Salander. Now there is another group in the Millennium led by Mikael Blomqvist, then Erika Berger, then Eriksson Kristermalm. They all start investigating and to dig out the truth, and Blomqvist firmly believes that Lisbeth had not done. She cannot do murder. She couldn't murder anyone who is investigating on women trafficking. Blomqvist believes that. And then there is another group, that is Milton Security, where Lisbeth Salander previously worked under Dragan Ermansky. Dragan Ermansky was the owner of that Milton Security. Now they are also investigating, and then there is police is also investigating. So 4 groups are investigating now. So the case becomes too much complicated. All of them help each other mutually, and there is also some difference, contradiction between all of them. So this becomes interesting and complex also. So I will try to tell, but I don't know how much will I be able to tell you, because this means complexity to the next level. Let's see how much I can tell you. So we see that Lisbeth is there in her apartment, in newly bought apartment in Lundagaten. So she sees on the newspaper that Salander is accused of 3 triple murders of Niels Buurman, then Dag and Mia. So she doesn't know that what is going on. So she opens the internet and searches Dag and Mia's documents, what are going on. Since she was a hacker, she can enter into anyone's account and check. She enters into Blomqvist's computer, she enters into Dragan Ermansky's computer, and all the people in the police, she can enter anywhere. So she checks Dag and Mia's account and finds out that there is a person called Zala who is involved in this women trafficking case. Then there is now the police and the journalist, the newspapers, the news reporters, all of them are searching for Lisbeth Salander. So they go to her room where she was previously living, and they find out that there is her friend, Chinese friend Millennium. So the journalists try to interrogate her, try to get one conversation to be done with her, but she doesn't agree. Millennium doesn't agree to give any explanation or any answer to any journalist. So police comes and checks Lisbeth's apartment where Millennium was living, but they couldn't find out anything. And the police is also checking. They takes Millennium to their custody for interrogation, but they couldn't find out anything, so they leave her, and now she's staying in that apartment. So now Blomqvist also wants to interrogate her, Millennium, but since she is not interested in talking to any journalist, so Blomqvist thinks it would be better if we try some other ways. So Blomqvist then find a person. Blomqvist didn't find that person came whose name was Paolo Roberto. He was a famous boxer. He boxed in Sweden, he boxed in US, and it was given like out of 30 or 40 matches he played, he won almost 90% of the matches. He was a great celebrity boxer, Paolo Roberto. So then he sees the report on the newspaper that Lisbeth Salander is accused of triple murder. So he thinks that she cannot do that. Lisbeth cannot commit murder. So Paolo Roberto comes to Millennium's office and tells Mikkel Blomqvist that what can I do? I think that Lisbeth cannot do this. So Blomqvist tells there is one thing you can do for us is go to Millennium and ask her, since I can't go because I am a journalist and Millennium is not ready to give her explanation to any journalist, so you can go. Since Paolo Roberto was also Millennium's friend and Lisbeth Salander was also, because Lisbeth, Paolo and Millennium, all of them boxed in the same organization, in the same boxing club. They were friends, and Paolo Roberto knew Lisbeth very well and also Millennium very well. So now Blomqvist tells Paolo that you can go to Millennium and ask her where is Lisbeth, since police can't track and no one knows her location, Lisbeth's location right now. So then Paolo Roberto goes to meet Millennium, but Millennium was not present in her room. Actually it was Lisbeth's room. So Paolo is waiting outside Millennium's house or Lisbeth's house in a car. Then see Millennium is coming, and then suddenly a jeep comes and stops, and someone, a big blonde guy, 6.8 feet tall and well built, he comes and takes Millennium in his jeep and takes her, means that person kidnaps Millennium and takes her somewhere. So Paolo Roberto also starts chasing that jeep in his car, and they end up in a warehouse in a place called Nickvern, if I am not wrong. It was Nickvern. And then that big blonde person asks, later on we know that the big blonde big blonde giant's name is Ronald Niederman. So Niederman asks Millennium where is Lisbeth Salander, but she can't give any answer. So then Niederman takes one chainsaw and he was about to kill her, Millennium. So then Paolo Roberto enters and started boxing with her. So there we see a great 3-4 rounds of boxing, and since he was a world-class boxer, Paolo Roberto, he punched and kicked him so hard in his mouth and belly and everywhere, but it was strange that Niederman couldn't feel anything. And on the other hand, Niederman gave one punch and Roberto was out. Same for Millennium. It was like Niederman had trained in any boxing club, but he used not to listen to his master, his coach. That is how Paolo Roberto describes it later. So then in the end, Niederman, they were in a warehouse and Niederman closes the gate, and before that Roberto hits Niederman on the backside of his skull with a big stone, and here it is written that probably Niederman's skull was almost cracked. And then Niederman leaves that place, but before leaving he closes the door and puts the entire warehouse into fire, so that even if police comes, they couldn't find any evidence. That's why he sets the place ablaze. But somehow Maria Mu and Paulo Roberto was able to escape that place. And one more thing, he didn't put it directly. Means at first, after getting hit on the skull, Niederman escaped that place in his Volvo. But he came after a few minutes, realizing that police can get some evidence. So he then spills some petrol and then burns that place. And in the meantime, Roberto and Maria Mu was already out, but they were both badly beaten by Niederman, since he was a 6'8" blonde giant and well-built body. He was a bodybuilder type, and he hit Maria Mu and Paulo Roberto so hard that they got wounded. And now they are in hospital, and that place is burnt. So police comes and started checking at that place, Nigvern. There was some dogs also, and the dog could smell that some dead bodies are buried underneath, and the police dig out 3 places where some dead bodies were buried, 3 graves, and now investigation is going on. Whose dead bodies are there? Those 3 people in that place called Nigvern. And Maria Mu and Paulo Roberto are in hospital now. So Blomqvist comes and asks what happened. They tell what had happened to them. And Paulo Roberto also tells that I think that person had some disease called congenital analgesia. It was later found by Paulo Roberto himself when he sends that person's detail to all the boxing club across Sweden, and he finds out that person's name is Ronald Niederman, and he was suffering. He had one disease called congenital analgesia, in which people couldn't feel any pain. They have some problem in their nervous system. And they also get one photograph of Ronald Niederman. So now, while they were staying in the hospital, one night Lisbeth Salander comes silently without anyone's notice and asks Maria Mu something. Before that, something happens that I will tell. Now Paulo Roberto was able to get the photograph of Ronald Niederman, and that was published on the newspaper and on the media by the police, that this person is Ronald Niederman, and he is suspect of beating them, and also he is suspect of maybe there is a link between the murder of Dag and Mia, the police thinks. So that person's photograph is published, and Lisbeth Salander takes one printout and shows it to Maria Mu in the hospital, that is this the person who beat you? Lisbeth says, yeah, this is the person. Then Lisbeth reminds that there is one job left. I could have done it earlier. That is to kill one person named Zala, who had been described in Mia's article. So that person Zala is actually Lisbeth Salander's father. Lisbeth's father was Zala, and he knew about that. Then we get to know the entire story, that while Lisbeth was staying in Lundagaten, since she was a hacker, she opened Blomqvist's, Armansky's, Dag and Mia's and everyone's. She could hack into anyone's computer and get all the details, whatever is present. So one time she opened into Blomqvist account, Blomqvist computer, and she saw that there is Dag is recruited there, and Dag is researching about that women trafficking, and there is one person named Zala, and his name is Alexander Zala. Lisbeth knew, and Zalasenko was her father. Then she got curious that why has Zalasenko's name come into this matter. So she calls Dag that what do you know about Zala? And at that time Dag knew that Dag realized that there is a connection between Lisbeth and Zalasenko. And since Lisbeth was staying under the guardianship of Niels Buurman, advocate Niels Buurman, Dag thought that maybe Niels Buurman knew something about Zala. So Dag called Niels Buurman, but unfortunately in Niels Buurman house there was present Niederman. The Niederman was actually Zalasenko's son. And they are trying to destroy any evidence that can lead the media or the police to Zalasenko, to this entire matter. So they are destroying any evidence. They don't want the police and anyone to reach to Zalasenko. So Zalasenko's son was unfortunately present there in Niels Buurman's house when curious Lisbeth called Dag, and Dag called Niels Buurman. When Dag called Niels Buurman, this Niederman was present in Buurman's house, and Niederman was there to kill Buurman. And unfortunately at that moment Dag's call came, and since Niederman was destroying every evidence related to Zala, so Niederman thought that he must kill Dag and Mia also, because they also know about this Zala. So that was an unfortunate incident. Had Salander not called Dag and Dag not called Niels Buurman, Dag and Mia both would be alive now. That is the sad story. So now Niederman was actually Zalasenko's son, and Zalasenko had son and daughter in all other countries besides Sweden, in so many 5-6 countries. And Lisbeth was Zalasenko's daughter, and Zalasenko never married Lisbeth's mother who was Margareta Salander. Zalasenko never married her, Margareta, but they had one daughter named Lisbeth, and Zalasenko used to beat her and torture her. And one day when Lisbeth was young, only 12 years old, Zalasenko had been torturing her mother for a long time, beating her, abusing her. And one day when Lisbeth was 12, she threw some petrol in Zalasenko's car, in his body, and lit one matchstick and tried to burn him. Lisbeth tried to burn Zalasenko, and Zalasenko's face and body was 50% burnt. He was taken to the hospital, and from that time Lisbeth has been labeled as a paranoid schizophrenic, and she had been sent to a psychiatric clinic headed by Dr. Peter Teleborian, who is another corrupt character who is involved in this matter. So now let's come back to the story, the main story. So Lisbeth shows the picture to Mariamu, that is this the person who beat you? Then Lisbeth says sorry to her also, sorry to Mariamu also, that because of me you both got bit. And Mariam tells that person Niederman was searching for you, Lisbeth. So then Lisbeth takes one oath that I should have done one job earlier that I will do now, that is to destroy, that is to kill Niederman and Zalasenko. So then she goes to Zalasenko's house, which was in a place called Gooseberga. So there, and she finds out, and how she finds out that Zalasenko was living in Gooseberga. That is also the image that was published by the police on the TV, that Niederman, the car that Niederman was driving, the license plate was visible. So from there, Lisbeth takes that number, license plate number, and goes to the car rental agency from where Niederman had taken the car, and from there she gets the data that who had rented the car, that's that person's name, but his address was not there, only post office box number was there. So she waited outside the, in Sweden there is every person is assigned one post office box, one post box. So there was some name 434 or something, and Lisbeth waited. Lisbeth is now waiting there for some time, and sees at that post box with a binocular, and after some time she sees that one person comes and takes something from that 434 number or something post box and goes somewhere. So Lisbeth follows that person, and she finally reaches to that place, Gooseberga, where Zalasenko was living, her father and Niederman also. There we see a violent confrontation between Salander, Lisbeth, and Zalasenko and Niederman. So they try to bury her alive. They actually buried her alive, Zalasenko and Niederman. And Zalasenko shot her 3 times, in head, in her thigh, and in her hip. She got badly injured and she was buried alive, but somehow buried alive in the night, and she somehow resurfaced, shifted the mud or the earth on one side and made a burrow, made a hole, and somehow she could come out from that graveyard. And then she enters again into Zalasenko's house and hits Zalasenko with an axe in his head one time and in his thigh one time. So Zalasenko got badly injured, and then Niederman comes, but Niederman had some problem, means some phantom type thing was chasing him in his dream. So when she saw Lisbeth in that farmhouse, she got scared and she ran away, and Lisbeth took the revolver of Zalasenko and tried to shoot him, but somehow Niederman leaves that place. And while leaving that place, Blomqvist also comes to there, and how Blomqvist reaches there, that is also one mystery. So now I will tell you. So at the beginning of the story we see one chase. There is one group called Savils Joe MC Motorcycle Club, who were also involved in all type of illegal activities with Zalasenko and Niederman. So Savils Joe MC's one member called Maggie Lundin. So he chases Salander in a place called Lundagaten, and there Blomqvist was also present. Coincidentally, Blomqvist was also present there, and Lisbeth's handbag falls there, and Lisbeth's handbag had fallen there, and Blomqvist had picked it up, but he could not return it to her. And when Blomqvist opens that, he sees that there is one PO box number. So when he goes to that PO box, post office box, he finds out some documents related to a newly bought apartment and also the key of that apartment. So Blomqvist take that, and then now he has gone to that place when all of the things are happening between Lisbeth and Zalasenko, all the fights are happening. So Blomqvist goes to that place in Lisbeth's apartment and opens the apartment, and somehow after entering some magical keys secretive number he was able to enter. And there was one report that Lisbeth got somehow. So then what is that report about? That is again another story that will take us into another direction. So it was written by Gunnar Bjork, who was in security police SAPO in 1993 when Lisbeth was admitted to the psychiatric clinic under Peter Telebodian. So then Gunnar Bjork wrote one report that Salander is mentally unstable and she is suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, all of which were wrong, because they wanted to hide the identity of Alexander Zalasenko, because Zalasenko was something special. That I will tell you. Who is he, from where he had come, and what is his story, and who are the people involved at trying to hide his identity, and why are they doing that? So there was one report written by Gunnar Bjork, and that report Advocate Niels Bjorman asked for. As Advocate Bjorman, when he got the guardianship after Salander's first guardian named Holger Palmgren, he got one brain stroke, and when he was admitted to the hospital for rehab, then Lisbeth had to change her guardian. So now she is living with Advocate Niels Bjorman. So Bjorman wanted to know about the past of Lisbeth Salander. So that's why he called for the report, Lisbeth's report, to Gunnar Bjork. And Gunnar Bjork knew about everything. So Gunnar Bjork and Niels Bjorman were also friends. They met somehow during 1980s, that I will tell later. That is again a mystery. So Bjork gave the report, which was highly secretive, confidential report, to Advocate Niels Bjorman, and Bjorman kept that report in his summer cabin, not in his own house, in his summer cabin. And Lisbeth comes chasing that report. Lisbeth comes at the summer cabin, and there he sees that at the same time two people from Savelsjo Motorcycle Club were sent by Niederman. One was Maggie Lundin, another was Niminen. Niminen and Lundin were sent by Niederman to fetch that report, because Niederman went one time but he couldn't find where was that report, because Niederman is now destroying all the evidences related to Zalasenko. So in that report there was, since Zalasenko was Lisbeth's father, so in Gunnar Bjork's report of 1993 it was present. So now Niederman is destroying all the evidences. So he went to Niels Bjorman's summer cabin also, but he couldn't find. So then he sends Lundin, Maggie Lundin and Niminen to bring that report, and at the same time Lisbeth was also present there. So there we see again one fight between Lisbeth and Lundin and Niminen. So Lisbeth shoots one person in his foot and then takes their Harley Davidson and leaves that place. And she also cuts one Savelsjo MC's logo from one person's jacket and takes it with her, and she leaves that Harley Davidson into Savelsjo MC's repair house garage and takes that logo and keeps that logo also there, so that police could find out that whose that bike belonged to. She shoots one person on his foot and then leaves that place with the report. And that report was placed in Lisbeth's new apartment in Lundagaten. Now come back to the present, when Mikkel Blomqvist goes to Lisbeth's apartment. He finds out that report, Gunnar Bjork's report of 1993. So when he reads that, he finds out the entire story, that Zalasenko was actually Lisbeth Salander's father, and what had done means Peter Telebodian wrote all the wrong reports, and it was a conspiracy that Lisbeth was completely mentally fit, but she was still sent to psychiatric clinic because they wanted to hide the identity of Zalasenko. And who is Zalasenko, that I will tell later. That's a big mystery. Let's keep it for the end. So then Blomqvist finds out that, and on the other side we see there is a violent confrontation between Elizabeth and Niederman, and they bury her underground, and then she comes back and he hits Zalasenko on the head with an axe, and also on Zalasenko's thigh, and both of them are badly injured, and Niederman leaves that place. And at the same time Blomqvist also comes there. Now how did Blomqvist know about the address of Zalasenko? So that is another question. So answer is, when Paolo Rovato gave Millennium, means all the staffs of Millennium, the information that Niederman and his picture, and Niederman worked in a private company, and that company was owned by one person named Carl Axel Bodin, and Carl Axel Bodil's, and then Millennium's staffs, especially Ericsson, she finds out that Carl Axel Bodin had one factory in a particular place called Gussberga, and Niederman was an employee there. So Ericsson gives this information to Mikael Blomqvist. Blomqvist was presently there in Lisbeth's apartment. So then Blomqvist finds out that the Carl Axel Bodins, under whom Niederman works, his apartment is in Gussberga. Blomqvist knew that Carl Axel Bodin is actually Zalasenko, since the government or the security police, they wanted to protect Zalasenko's identity. That's why Zalasenko was given the name Carl Axel Bodin. Actually it was Zala, and Zalasenko's current house is in Gussberga. So Blomqvist goes there, Gussberga, and already Lisbeth was present, and there is that confrontation. And after that fight, Niederman tries to leave, and while leaving he sees the car of Mikael Blomqvist. So Niederman stops that car and asks for lift, but Blomqvist realizes that this is the person. Blomqvist recognizes that, yeah, this is the person, Niederman, whom we are looking for. So Blomqvist takes him on gunpoint and puts him beside the road, on a road sign, and Blomqvist ties Niederman in, and Blomqvist ties Niederman with a rope in the signal pole just beside Gussberga, and ties him, that 6'8" blonde giant. It was a hard job, but still Blomqvist did it. And then Blomqvist comes to Gussberga, to Zalasenko's house, and finds out Elizabeth there and calls the police. They come and take her to the hospital, and also Zalasenko was not dead. Zalasenko was also taken to the hospital. And now the next part, both Zalasenko and Elizabeth are in hospital, and we see Blomqvist here in Gussberga. So one local policeman named Paulson comes there, and Paulson was one idiotic person. Blomqvist tells that there is one person, there is Niederman, who is kept there, who is tied with a rope, with a pole. And Blomqvist warns Paulson that don't send normal police 2 or 3. You need some huge force with automatic rifles or something heavy force, because Niederman is not a normal person. He was a 6'8" blonde giant who could hit hard, and he was a very strong person, so normal police couldn't deal with him. Blomqvist tells Paulson, but Paulson didn't listen, since he was an idiotic police person. So he sends two normal policemen to fetch Niederman. And Blomqvist also tells that I have one gun using which I threaten Niederman. And Paulson arrested Blomqvist, since he was possessing one rifle, one gun. Such a idiotic person Paulson was. So then Then comes the inspector who was investigating the entire investigation, that is Inspector Bublansky. So Blomqvist tells Paulson to call Bublansky and bring him here. So then Bublansky comes and tells that, yeah, Blomqvist is our pupil, he is our man, he is in this investigation, and you can't just arrest him like that. He is a credible journalist. And then the news comes that the two policemen who were sent to bring Niederman, one person died. Niederman killed one person and badly injured another, and Niederman took the police car and left that place. So Blomqvist then again blames that idiotic police officer Paulson for his duty, for his irresponsibility. Then Blomqvist was taken by Bublansky from that place. Then to the next part. So now we see that Lisbeth Salander is in hospital, and Zalasenko was also in hospital, since both of them are badly injured. So now police comes, Inspector Modig and someone else, Sonja Modig. So she tells Zalasenko, what you know about this? We are searching about Niederman, and Niederman is accused of killing 3 people, Dag and Mia, and also Advocate Niels Buurman. And what you know about him, give us. But Zalasenko tells that, no, my daughter tried to kill me last night, and you should focus on my daughter, not on me or Niederman. I have nothing to do, I am an old person. Since Zalasenko was very intelligent person. Then comes one part. So now I have to tell you what is the identity of Zalasenko. So Zalasenko was a Soviet defector, Russian spy. He used to work in Russian intelligence service. So he had so much information in 1980s, and he was in Spain. So he used not to listen to anyone, to the higher authority. And when he was in Spain, he did something wrong, and the Russian intelligence team sent one person to bring Zalasenko back to Russia, but Zalasenko killed that person. And from then on, Russia is trying to catch him. Russia's intelligence service, GRU, they are trying to catch Zalasenko, but Zalasenko left Russia and sought political asylum in Sweden. Zalasenko sought political asylum in Sweden, and Sweden gave him asylum in 1976 on the election day. And there was Gunnar Björk, who used to work in one department of Sweden called security police, that is called SAP or SAPO. So Gunnar Björk wrote some reports about him, and he gave him one new identity, that was Karl Axel Bodin. And there was one complete section who was involved, which is termed as section, means so many people were involved in hiding Zalasenko's identity, since Zalasenko was important to Sweden because he could give so much information about Soviet Russia. So Sweden thought he is very much important to us, we could protect him and use his knowledge. So Zalasenko was given the political asylum, and Gunnar Björk gave him the false identity called Karl Axel Bodin. And then there is one complete team who were with Zalasenko. Names like Evert Gullberg, then Frederick Clinton, then one person named Sankey, who was in finance department, then so many people from security police, one person named Jonas Sandberg, then Martinson, All of them were involved in this group, which group is named as Zalasenko Club by Blomqvist, and that group is also called the section, who were involved in all the illegal activities plus protecting the identity of Alexander Zalasenko. So now Zalasenko is in hospital and Lisbeth Salander is also there. So now that group section, they decide. The section was created by Evert Gullberg, who was also in SAPO. So he goes to Frederick Clinton and talks to him what we can do about it. So they sent one person called Warden Zoo, who was also a high-ranking official in Sweden involved in section. So Warden Zoo goes and interrogate Zalasenko, but Zalasenko was not cooperative. He tells that I will save myself, but I will expose all of you. I can expose. You can't do anything to me. Then the group called section, they decide that Evert Gullberg would sacrifice, since Evert Gullberg was suffering from liver cancer and he had only few months left in his life. So Gullberg decided that I would go to that hospital, shoot Zalasenko and also shoot Lisbeth, so that the story stops here and all of us are safe. All of us will remain safe. Frederick Clinton and Warden Zoo, Sandberg, Jonas Sandberg, all of them. So one person has to sacrifice, and that will be Evert Gullberg. So Gullberg goes to that hospital and shoots Zalasenko. Zalasenko is dead now. But when he enters into Lisbeth's room to shoot her also, but fortunately there was Blomqvist's sister Annika Giannini, who was a lawyer. So Giannini puts one stretcher type thing on the door and Gullberg couldn't open it from outside. So seeing no option open, Gullberg sacrifices and commits suicide, hits himself. He shoots himself. So Gullberg is dead and Zalasenko is also dead. So now police comes again, led by Inspector Bublansky, then Sonja Modik, then Hans First, then Prosecutor Ekstrom, who is in charge of this investigation. So now Ekstrom is approached by the members of section that we can't let Salander escape. We have to put her in psychiatric clinic again, and we have to prove that she is paranoid schizophrenic. Otherwise, if she opens her mouth, then everyone in this country will know that Zalasenko is a Soviet defector, and that would ruin our image. And we can't let that happen. So we must put Lisbeth under a psychiatric clinic. So now the conspiracy starts. So Ekstrom was convinced by the members of section. Now there is that person, Gunnar Bjork. So in the first part we saw that it was Gunnar Bjork who tells Mikhail Blomqvist about Alexander Zalasenko. When he accepted the offer, when Blomqvist called Gunnar Bjork that you have owned one smartphone and you have a chance to win 100 million, you have a chance to win 100,000 kroner. Gunnar Bjork agrees to meet, and there Bjork is blackmailed by Blomqvist. Blomqvist tells that I will expose you if you don't tell me the truth about Zalasenko. So then, with no option left, Gunnar Bjork tells Blomqvist the identity of Zalasenko, that Zalasenko was a Russian defector who came to Sweden in 1976, and it was him who gave Zalasenko the false identity. And Advocate Niels Bjurman was also present with him. And then when in 1992 that happened, Lisbeth Salander tried to burn her father Zalasenko, then they didn't want the police investigation to happen, and they didn't want anyone to know about the identity of Zalasenko. That's why Lisbeth was put in a psychiatric clinic. So Gannerborg gave that information. Then Blomqvist went to that person, Holger Palmgren, who was Lisbeth Salander's guardian before advocate Nils Bjurman. Holger Palmgren was the guardian of Lisbeth Salander. So Palmgren gave Blomqvist the rest of the information that was needed. Now let's come back to the present. So now see, both of them are in hospital and he's shot dead, Zalasenko. Now the section, they are trying to prevent anyone from knowing the reality that this group section had given protection to a Soviet defector. So now what are they doing? So they now taps Blomqvist phone number, the Blomqvist cell, and all the other of at Millennium's office, and they also recruit two people. One is Martinsson, another is Jonas Sandberg. They are recruited by section, and then we see that Dragan Armansky, the owner of Milton Security, he along with Linder, they both install CCTV cameras on Blomqvist's apartment, and they see that someone enters into Blomqvist's apartment, and it was actually Jonas Sandberg, and the footage was captured in CCTV. So now Gunnar Bjork's report is presently in the hands of Mikkel Blomqvist. Gunnar Bjork's report is with Blomqvist, and Blomqvist tells Erika Berger to make copies before Blomqvist goes to that place, Gooseberga, where there was the big showdown between Lisbeth and Zalasenko and Niederman. So Blomqvist tells Berger that you make printouts, you make copies of this report and send it to Inspector Bublansky. Send the original to Bublansky, and you keep one report here. Mikkel Blomqvist tells Erika Berger, the co-owner of the magazine Millennium. So Erika Berger does that, and then the report is with one copy of report is with Mikkel Blomqvist, and another copy he made, and he gives it to his sister Annika Giannini, who is the lawyer who will represent Lisbeth Salander in court, because Lisbeth is charged with attempt to murder of her father Alexander Zalasenko. Lisbeth is charged with the murder of Zalasenko and also with the murder of Dag and Mia and Nils Bjurman and so many. So now the two reports are there. Gunnar Bjork's 1993 report, they are there with Blomqvist and Annika Giannini, and one is sent to Bublansky. So now the section, they tap the cell phones of all the staffs of Millennium. Now they are listening what is going on. So they don't want that scam to be exposed. So they try to get hold of that, hijack that copy of 1993 Bjork's report. So Annika Giannini had one, Blomqvist had one, and Inspector Bublansky had one copy. So they send one person, Jonas Sandberg and Martinsson, to enter into Blomqvist house and take that. And on the other side, so they successfully take that report, and on the other side one person comes in bike and mugs Annika Giannini and takes the report. So now Bjork's report is gone. So now Millennium is in great trouble. Blomqvist and Annika Giannini and Erika Berger and everyone. What will we do? We don't have the 1993 report of Gunnar Bjork, which was our main evidence in the court that something wrong was done with Lisbeth. So now what would we do? So now the next part. So then we see Blomqvist hires one person named Idris Ghiri, who was from Iraq and who is now working in the hospital where Salander, where Lisbeth is staying. So Blomqvist tells Idris Ghiri to plant one mobile and change its battery on every night so that it can send the Wi-Fi signal, and Lisbeth's personal hand computer or palm notebook, it is sent to Lisbeth via Dr. Jonasson. Dr. Jonasson was taking care of Lisbeth, and Blomqvist Blomqvist gives Lisbeth's mobile to Jonasson and tells him to give it to her. And Jonasson was also sympathetic person. He knows that some conspiracy is going on related to Lisbeth. So Jonasson gives that mobile to her, Lisbeth. So now when Lisbeth opens that, she sees one message that Blomqvist is telling that now you start writing your own biography and I will publish it in our magazine Millennium. So now in hospital, Lisbeth is writing her own biography, and that she will send to Blomqvist, and Blomqvist will publish it in the next edition of Millennium, his magazine, that Conspiracy Against Lisbeth. And Idris Ghiri was appointed to change the battery of that mobile, which was placed on the ventilator, which will give the Wi-Fi signal. Now Lisbeth is writing the story, and now she contacts her friend named Plague, who was in a hackers group, means all of them were hackers. And Lisbeth tells Plague to gain access to Peter Telebodian's computer and find out what is there in his computer to get any information. So Plague enters into Peter Telebodian's computer and finds out some information that Peter Telebodian was given the job by the section actually to write one false report that is to be produced on the court when Lisbeth's trial happens. And Peter Telebodian had already written that report even before visiting Lisbeth. So that shoots his credibility down, Telebodian's credibility. Actually, Peter Telebodian was a corrupt person. That again we will see later. So now the story is continuing, and so now on the other side, so few people from the section, especially Jonas Sandberg and Martinson, so they snatch the reports, Bjork's report from 1993 from Annika Giannini and also from Blomqvist. They don't want that to be exposed, and then they also try to shoot his credibility down, Blomqvist and Millennium's credibility. So Milton Security had already installed one CCTV camera in Blomqvist's apartment, and there they see Milton Security and Dragan Armansky shows Mikhail Blomqvist that one person had entered and he has planted some cocaine into your house and some 120,000 kroner. And not only here, they were planning something more severe than that. So Erika Berger, the co-owner of Millennium, she was also receiving some threat emails, and one person threw one stone from Erika Berger's house, and it breaks the glass door of her house and the stone enters into her house, and it contained one threatening letter. So Erika Berger couldn't sleep at night. So in the morning, she calls Blomqvist and tells that she wants to meet Blomqvist. They decide to meet at a place called Samir's Cauldron at 3:30. And when they go to meet at Samir's Cauldron, there was some bigger conspiracy that was going on. Now on the other side, we see that Dragan Armansky, so he goes to the Constitution Protection Department, whose head was Ed Klinth, and Ed Klinth and Armansky had worked before few years ago, so they two were almost friends. So Dragan Armansky goes to Ed Klinth and tells him that there is a big conspiracy within the security police and so many people are involved, so you must investigate into this matter. So then Ed Klinth calls one officer named Monica Figueroa, one female officer. So she is now investigating into this matter. That is also a secret investigation. No one would know about that. And so Figueroa, while investigating, she follows Blomqvist and finds out that someone is following Blomqvist. That was again Jonas Sandberg and Martinson, and they enter into Blomqvist's house, and all the photographs were captured by Monica Figueroa. And she also sees one lady. She didn't know till then who was she, but when she comes to Ed Klinth and tells and discusses, then she knows that person was Linder. She was from Milton Security, who probably was recruited by Blomqvist for safety reasons. And the two person who entered into his house, they were Jonas Sandberg and Martinson. And then they find out that both of them work in security police, and they were sent to counter espionage in Spain or somewhere, in some other location where no one could track them. And all of them were done by the director of secretariat, whose name was Albert Senke. So Albert Senke was also involved in this system. Albert Senke approved their counter espionage. They were sent to some Spain or somewhere, in some other location where they could not be tracked, but actually they were here in Sweden, and they were doing all these illegal stuffs, planting cocaine in Blomqvist's house. So Monica Figueroa captures the photographs from a place where she could not be seen. Then she comes to Ed Klinth's office, and then Ed Klinth goes to the Prime Minister and tells that there is a conspiracy going on. Some Soviet defector had entered into our house, and the people within the security police, who are called the section, they are involved in giving protection to that person called Zalasenko. So Prime Minister orders that there should be an investigation, and the Constitution Protection Department, headed by Ed Klinth, they were given the charge to investigate. So now Monica Figueroa is after Blomqvist, so he is checking what is going on with him. So then she finds out that two person enters into Blomqvist and plants all those. And on the other hand, Milton Securities Armansky, he also plants. He had already installed CCTV cameras, and he shows Blomqvist that see, two people have entered into your house and planted these stops. Then Blomqvist and Erika Berger already had agreed to meet at Samir's Cauldron at 3:30, and when they go there, they are having a discussion, and on the other side we see that on Etlin's office where Monica Figueroa was present, one policeman comes and tells that he has captured some photographs, and that Sandberg met two people in one restaurant, and in that photograph the two people could be recognized. Inspector Sonja Modik recognized them, and she tells that they were sharpshooters. They were sharpshooters from Serbia and Yugoslavia. Monica Figueroa instantly realizes that Blomqvist's life is in danger. Means she makes 2 + 2 4. Means the cocaine is planted in Blomqvist's house, and now they would kill Blomqvist plus Erika Berger. And the media would know that Blomqvist was involved in some illegal drug deal. So Blomqvist's reputation would go down. Means even Millennium publishes the report about Section, no one would believe then. In this way, in this dirty way, they are planning to set Blomqvist up. So they instantly go there on their Figueroa calls Bublansky and Sonja Modik, all of them, they instantly go to Samir's cauldron to save Mikhail Blomqvist and Erika Berger. So then those two sharpshooters, Nicole's brother, they enter and collides with Blomqvist. There we see they had one automatic rifle. Then we see shootout, but no one got hurt since Blomqvist caught him even before firing. And shots were fired, but fortunately no one got hit. Then police comes, Sonja Modik and Boblansky and all of them, Monica Figueroa, and they catch the two Nicole's brothers. So they got caught by the police, and now we see that the section got the group, the secretive group called Section. They are now in tension that what would we do. Nicole's brother got caught and they couldn't kill Mikhail Blomqvist. So now what would we do? Now on the other side, there is one incident that happens before that. This incident came later. So Peter Telebodian, Monica Figueroa was having a sharp eye on Peter Telebodian, and in hospital Lisbeth Salander was also inquiring via her hacker friend Plague. He was also entering into everyone's computer and checking what evidence they can get to protect Lisbeth. And Plague tells Lisbeth that Peter Telebodian is meeting one person named Jonas Sandberg in 3:30 that evening, in 3:30 that afternoon in the railway station. So Lisbeth gets the information. He tells Blomqvist that Peter Telebodian is going to meet someone called Jonas Sandberg. So now the team of Millennium is ready. Millennium, Mikhail Blomqvist, Christian Malm, those two, and also Monica Figueroa, they are now waiting at the railway station. Whom does Peter Telebodian meet? The secret person from Section, who is Jonas Sandberg. Then they see that person, Jonas Sandberg, Peter Telebodian and Jonas Sandberg, they had a meeting, and now they are seeing it, Eriksson, and they went to a restaurant. They go to a restaurant, and Christian Malm and Monica Figueroa, both of them follow them, Telebodian and Sandberg. And then when Telebodian leaves, Christian Malm follow him, and he sees that Telebodian ends at the police station. Blomqvist calls Sonja Modik that, are you present there in police station? So who is Telebodian meeting? So Sonja Modik goes there and sees that Telebodian was meeting with prosecutor Ekstrom, and they are having a meeting. So from that, Sonja Modik and Blomqvist and everyone at Millennium realized that prosecutor Ekstrom is also involved in this. Ekstrom was not directly involved, but he is influenced by the inputs of section, that group, that rogue group. Now let's come back to that story. So now they are having a meeting, and the two Nicholas brother, they are caught by the police. So now on the other hand, Ed Clint and Monica Figueroa, they are investigating about this matter. Now the case is put on court when Lisbeth is almost cured. She is taken to the court for trial, and Anika Giannini is representing her, and on the other side there is public prosecutor Ekstrom, who is also influenced by the section, and he brings some witnesses in order to prove that Lisbeth Salander had some mental disturbance. She is having some problem related to mental health issues, and Peter Teleborian gives his version that Lisbeth had been a troubled child. She is suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, and all the things that Lisbeth tells is basically lie. Teleborian tells this, that means Lisbeth wrote in her autobiography, which was published by Millennium, that Lisbeth was molested or abused by her guardian, Advocate Niels Erik Bjurman. But Teleborian tells no, she lives in her own dream. She fantasizes about so many things and writes all the wrong things. But later on in the court it was proved, because Lisbeth had one CCTV footage of Advocate Niels Bjurman abusing her. She had one CCTV camera when in her bag, which was turned on when Niels Bjurman abused her. So that video was shown in the court, and it proved that Lisbeth was not guilty. Lisbeth does not live in one imaginative world. She is totally fine. It was proved. And Peter Teleborian's credibility was lost, and Plague also, Lisbeth's hacker friend Plague, also enters into Teleborian's computer and finds out that Teleborian had written about Lisbeth Salander mental condition few days before, even before interrogating her, even before Teleborian had the chance to interview Lisbeth. He had written the interview in advance, the report in advance, and that was proved in court, that Teleborian's credibility is gone now. The judge knew that Teleborian is lying. So now the entire thing comes to the surface. Then Advocate Anika Giannini, who was Blomqvist's sister and representing Lisbeth. So now she asked Ed Clint and Blomqvist as to give some information about this. So Ed Clint also had the Plague's report that Peter Teleborian was lying. He had written the report in advance, and moreover there is one more charge which Plague found, that Peter Teleborian was owning 8,000 photographs, obscene photographs of young children, obscene photograph of young girls, 8,000 obscene photos of young girls, which is illegal in their law and in every country's law also. So that's why he was taken into custody. So Teleborian is gone, and now Lisbeth lives free. The judge declares that a conspiracy was done against Lisbeth, and in 1992 Lisbeth's mother was continuously abused by Alexander Zalasenko, and then that's why Lisbeth had protested, and she threw some petrol at her and tried to burn him down, Zalasenko. And since Zalasenko was a Soviet defector, so the people, including Gunnar Bjork, Teleborian, advocate Niels Bjorman, and everyone, including the section, they were protecting his identity, Zalasenko's identity. So that's why a 12-year-old girl was illegally sent to a psychiatric clinic, and there she was tied with a leather strap on the bed for almost 381 days, and she was forced to eat some drug that was not needed actually, and that made her health condition worse. So these things were proved in the court, and Lisbeth was left. Now there are so many untied loose ends, that who killed Dag and Mia and what happened with advocate Niels Bjorman. So for that I have to tell you the story of Ronald Niederman. So from the very beginning, so now you know the complete story, but one thing is missing, the loose ends are not matching. So now I will tell you. So Ronald Niederman was Alexander Zalasenko's son, and Alexander Zalasenko's daughter was Lisbeth Salander, though Zalasenko never married Lisbeth's mother. And I think that is the same case for Ronald Niederman also. And he had sons and daughters in many countries of Europe, 4 or 5 countries. And out of all of them, Zalasenko found that Ronald Niederman is most capable of all of them. Since he was 6'8", Ronald Niederman was 6'8", and he was having a well-built body, and he had one medical condition named congenital analgesia, means he couldn't feel any pain. So now Zalasenko used Ron Niederman for doing all those illegal stuffs, and with them the Savalsijo motorcycle club was also involved. They were involved, and the section, they were involved in women trafficking and all those illegal stuff. And section tried to protect Zalasenko's identity, and section had members like Gunnar Bjork, Evert Gullberg, then Warden Zoo. That person, Warden Zoo, was kidnapped one time by the section to protect their identity, and Gunnar Bjork was also hanged by the section. Gunnar Bjork was killed actually by the section. They sent Jonas Sandberg and Martinson, and both of them hang and made it look like a suicide, that Gunnar Bjork had committed suicide, since Bjork agreed to meet Inspector Bublansky, and Bublansky was an honest inspector, and if Bjork tells something to Bublansky, it would be problematic. The entire identity of section would come in front of the public. That's why the section also killed Gunnar Bjork. And then comes Warden Zoo. Warden Zoo was also within section, and Warden Zoo was kidnapped and he was removed from their group because he was also becoming a threat for them. Then there was Evert Gullberg, who killed Zalasenko and who also committed suicide to save all of them. And then, so now we are talking about Ronald Niederman. So Niederman was involved in all those illegal activities with Savalsijo motorcycle club, and when at the end of the second book, the girl who played with fire, Ronald Niederman left that place after the violent confrontation between Zalasenko and Lisbeth, and Niederman was caught by Blomqvist. Then but he kills one policeman and injured other and leaves that place. So he takes the police car, and after some time he takes another car. He takes a car of the nurse, of a medical nurse, and throws the nurse from her car, and he takes that car and goes to a place to hide, and he goes to Savils Joe MC's office, and there they sent him to a person called Waltery was also in Savils Joe MC, and Waltery sends Niederman to a person called Goranson. Goranson was the treasurer of Savils Joe MC. So Niederman goes to Goranson's place, and Goranson and his girlfriend was living there. So he was the treasurer actually, and Savils Joe MC's all money in treasury was there in his room, in his house, probably 200,000 kroner or something. So Niederman takes that money and kills Goranson and injures his girlfriend, and then he leaves that place, and Niederman started staying in old warehouse of Alexander Zalasenko somewhere in Sweden. Probably it was also near Gusberga, I think, where police couldn't find him, which is a strange thing, that the police were finding him so hard, but they couldn't search the place at Gusberga. So now the story ends there, that Lisbeth is left free, and Peter Teleborin is taken into custody, and Ekstrom is also proved that he was influenced by the section, and Zalasenko is already dead, and Blomqvist and Millennium, they were able to prove in the court that Lisbeth is not guilty, and everyone and Etclinth took the charge actually from the Prime Minister. Etclinth took the permission, and Etclinth was able to make all of them. Etclinth was able to get all of them arrested, all the people in the section arrested, means whoever was left, means few were already killed or committed suicide, like Warden Zoo or Gunnar Bjork or Peter or Advocate Niels Bjorman. They were already dead, and who were left, they were caught, and Gullberg was also dead. So those who were left, like Frederick Clinton, who took the charge after Evert Gullberg committed suicide and killed Zalasenko, Frederick Clinton took the charge. He became the head of the section, and he was also in his deathbed almost. Means his dialysis was going on. His health was also not good, and Gullberg was also 78 years old and he also had 2-3 months left. He had liver cancer, and he was about to die, so he sacrificed his life in order to protect the section, but unfortunately he couldn't. So Frederick Clinton was arrested, and all the other members, Jonas Sandberg, Martinson, then Albert Senke, who was in finance department. Albert Senke was not in finance department. He was the secretariat who hide the identity of Jonas Sandberg and Martinson. I mean, he sent them into some other place where that actually don't exist. He wanted to protect the identity of Jonas Sandberg and Martinson, and while they were involved in all the illegal activities, means Martinson and Jonas Sandberg was active doing all those illegal stuffs, but in official record it was shown that Sandberg was in Spain, Martinson was in some other place, and it was shown by that person, Albert Senke. He was also captured, and all the other people of section, they were all arrested in the end, and Lisbeth lives free, and Millennium is successful in proving that Lisbeth Salander is not guilty, and give her all the rights that a normal citizen would get, since all the rights were taken from her at an early age, from the age of 12. All the rights that a normal citizen of Sweden enjoys. Everything was taken from her, and in order to protect the identity of Alexander Zalasenko, she was shown to be paranoid schizophrenic, and she was taken into psychiatric clinic under Dr. Peter Telebodian. Telebodian also got arrested later. So now this is how the story ends, but there is also one more part. Niederman still lives, but we don't know what will happen with him. So that is the last part. So now, after leaving that house, after she is proved not guilty from the court, after a few days she gets all the property of Alexander Zalasenko, since she was the daughter of Zalasenko. So all the property are received by Lisbeth, but she is not ready to take that. She tells Annika Giannini that, yeah, I am signing it, but you sell all the property and give the money, donate the money to any charity. I don't need. And then from one of the properties, she thinks that Niederman could be there. So she goes there in an old warehouse, and there Lisbeth finds that Niederman was actually staying there. Then she finds Niederman there. Then we see a fight between them, and Niederman and Lisbeth put some nails from a nail gun into Niederman's both feet, and his feet got attached to the wooden floor. He couldn't move, and since Niederman couldn't feel any pain, he just saw that his foot is attached to the wooden floor. Then Lisbeth leaves that place and calls Savils Joe MC that, do you want to know where is Niederman? Since Savils Joe MC already had some bad blood with Niederman, because Niederman had killed Savils Joe MC's member Goransson and injured her girlfriend, so they had some bad blood. They wanted to kill. So Lisbeth takes one duplicate SIM and calls Savils Joe MC, and all of them come. Lundin or Niminen, all of them come with automatic machine gun and then kill Ronald Niederman. So this is how the story ends. And Lisbeth also calls the police that, do you want to see Niederman and Savils Joe MC's member? Then come here. So all of them come here. So Lisbeth Salander throws the SIM away and she leaves, and police comes and sees that Niederman is already dead, and after a long shootout they were able to catch the pupil of Savils Joe MC also. So that is the end of the story. So one of the most complicated stories, and there are so many depths, like Lisbeth wants to feel like she is a victim of the government norms. Means that is in human nature actually. Some people wants to feel like they are a victim, and feeling victim is like a energy hole in your body that soaks all the energy, and a victim always wants to help another victim, and he thinks that the entire world is against him or her. The victim thinks, and a victim always helps other victims. They think that they are so confined to victimity. It is like a submissive and dominant character role. They think that the offender is so much powerful that they can't do anything. This is like opposite to life force. Life force opposite is a death force, and Lisbeth Salander represents the death force. Her death drive is so much hard that she always thinks that the entire world is against her. Just like in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, we saw that Harriet was like that. Harriet's father and brother tortured her so many years ago, and now she is living in Australia. Now she is, in her mind, all of them are still torturing her. So that is how some people are obsessed with victimity. And one more part, again, like I told you in the first part, the topic of transgression, it is still there, that the great dragon that is represented here, from the great dragon is the representation of the governmental power for thousands of years, and there is a myth that the great dragon demands blood, and for that blood it gives superhuman power, and you have to spill some blood in order to solidify something which is not material. I told you in the first video, I think, like how NATO soldiers do something that should not be done. Now there is another aspect, like the difference between execution and kill. In total Millennium series we see execution, there is some part where you can call it an execution, and in some part where you have to call it a kill. So difference between this is when some people know that I am applying transgression, then it is an execution. Means you are proved guilty by the court of law, by the laws of the court, and you are doing it to solidify your position. You are applying the act of transgression, then it will be called execution. But if someone is committing crime just for resentment and they are just multiplying their resentment, then it will be called a kill. So the people in the high ranking officials, the thing they are applying, that is actually transgression. And kill you can call, in case of Harriet or in case of Elizabeth, they are always on the bottom of that pyramid, and they never try to go towards the up. And the people who are sitting up, they are applying that theory of transgression to solidify their position, just like in part 1, Gottfried Wenger and Martin Wenger and Harriet. They were managing a company that had 30,000 employees, so they had to be strict to their employees, otherwise they would not listen to them. And Harriet was on the down. Same for Elizabeth. Elizabeth was on the down of the pyramid, but Harriet was somehow saved by Henry Wenger in the first part, when she was made the CEO of Wenger Industries. Then she reaches from the down of the pyramid to the top. Now another aspect could be how to apply this. So spill some blood, how to apply transgression, spill some blood, or do some terrorist activities, anything that denies law, then only you can claim that you are applying the law. So the topic of transgression is a little bit hard, like you initiate a war or you kill someone in order to protect the democracy. And this book is all about the corruption among high-ranking officials. In first part also we see that Wenger Industries or Wennerstrom, and in this part also, the part 2 and part 3, we see that the high-ranking official, the civil institution, the government, they become corrupt. And in the end, one more big aspect is the win of journalism. So many conspiracies are done to stop Michael Blomqvist and the Millennium, but end of the day they survives and they thrives, and it is in the end, it is the win of journalism actually. And there is one more aspect, that if you lose faith in democracy, that is also not totally, that will not be morally right, because in this in the last book, in this book, the girl who kicked the hornet's nest, we see that the Constitution Protection Department, that worked perfectly. That's why that came. If that organization became, that institution or department became corrupt, then the entire Zalasenko affair would not be exposed. So you need to have some faith in democracy also, that not all the organizations or all the institutions, civil institutions, are corrupt. You need to have some faith. That is why the world is surviving. If everything becomes corrupt, all the government and every institutions become corrupt, then it would be impossible for people to live. So you need to have some faith in democracy, that justice is given. It is not like everything is corrupt and you will not get justice. So there is a ray of hope in this, that people should repent, people should have faith in democracy, that in the end, no matter what happens, justice will prevail. And also it is a win of journalism also, since Stieg Larsson was himself a journalist. That's why he wrote it in such a way that it is a win of journalism in the end. So one of the most beautifully written books. It is not like so much shootouts and so much guns and violence and so many things, but in every single setup, it is written in such a beautiful way that it can be called a perfect crime thriller, and it sets a benchmark how this type of books should be written. So that is a great loss for us, that he died at an early age. These books were published in 2005 and he died in 2004. He couldn't see the success of these books. What would have happened had he lived? That would be a completely different story. We would get so much masterpieces from him. But still, whatever he had written, these 3 books will remain as classic, and for other writers to follow how a crime thriller should be written. So this much for today. I think it has become the longest video of this channel, more than 1 hour. I think 1 hour 30 minutes or what, let's see after closing this. So this much for today. Signing off, Joy Ganguly, and I will see you in the next video.